Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm Steve Zipperstein. I'm the faculty, I like to be close. I'm the faculty director of the Eunice and Soraya Nazarian Center for Israel Studies here at UCLA. Thank you so much for coming to our, I think what you'll find to be a very interesting, very important program this afternoon with our three wonderful speakers. A couple of housekeeping things before I start. I'll introduce our speakers. They've got a slide presentation. They're going to run you through their scholarly research in Israel, focusing on 7 case studies. The work they do to build bridges, to build community within Jewish schools and Arab schools, among Jewish and Arab schools. And let's just be clear, when we talk about Israeli Jews, we're talking about an incredibly diverse population, right? Ethiopians, we're talking about a huge array of ethnic groups from various parts of the world. And we talk about Israeli Arabs. We're talking about a very diverse population. Muslim, Christian, Bedouins don't have much in common from people who live in Al-Fahim and so forth. So very interesting dynamic there. And of course, don't forget the Druze. So they're going to cover all of that in their presentation. Unfortunately, I have to teach at about 10 after 5, which will make me a little bit late. And so my dear colleague, Mona Resnick, who's sitting here, the executive director of our center, will moderate the Q&A portion of the event. So please forgive me when I do have to leave the room a little bit early. I want to thank our wonderful co-sponsors. And this program, I have to just be honest with all of you, we're all family here, right? The Nazarian Center was not the most popular place at UCLA for the last couple of years. Let's just be honest. But this program has broken the logjam. Let me tell you who has stepped forward to co-sponsor this program, and we're so thrilled to have these co-sponsors. The UCLA Center for Near Eastern Studies, right around the corner here. The Luskin School of Public Affairs, our dean is here. Thank you for being here, Dean. UCLA Center for Middle East Development, the UCLA Department of Education, the UCLA Department of Social Welfare, and the American Friends of the Hebrew University. Thank you very much to all of our co-sponsors. We're back on campus, and we're very proud to have all of our co-sponsors here today. Let me introduce our 3 speakers. First, Karen Tal, Director General of the Amal Educational Network since August of 22 in Israel. She pursues a mission to redefine the trajectory of Israel's future generation through transformative education. She previously spearheaded the Insights in Education, a pioneering nonprofit where she served as executive director for a decade. The current organization champions schools in Israel's periphery, addressing not only educational but also social and emotional needs. And her resume goes on from there, but I want her to talk, not me. So let me now come to Dr. Mona Khoury, who is a professor of social work at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, Vice President of the Hebrew University for Strategy and Diversity for the entire university. So thank you so much for being here. Just a couple of words. She's the previous Dean of the Paul Beerwald School of Social Work and Social Welfare at the Hebrew University. She holds the school's Francis and George Katz Family Chair. She's the first in her family to reach higher education. She was voted one of the top 3 most influential women in Israel by Globes magazine, published by Haaretz, and last year received the coveted Israel Presidential Medal of Honor Award. Congratulations. Incredibly prestigious. I also want to mention that in her role as Vice President for Diversity of the entire Hebrew University of Jerusalem, Dr. Khoury is responsible for determining and implementing overall policies, strategies, and models for promoting diversity and inclusion at the Hebrew University. Her work aims to increase the accessibility of groups currently underrepresented in Israeli academia, including ultra-Orthodox Jews, Arabs, Jews of Ethiopian descent, first generation to higher education, and people with disabilities. Incredibly important work. We can learn a lot here at UCLA from what you're doing. And then finally, my dear friend, Professor Ron Avi Astor, Professor of Social Welfare at the UCLA Luskin School of Public Affairs, with a joint appointment in the UCLA School of Education and Information Studies. His work examines the role of physical, social, organizational, and cultural contexts in schools related to different kinds of bullying and school violence. I won't give examples, His work documents the ecological influences of the family, community, school, and culture on such violence. The research that he's conducted over the last 35 years has resulted in 300 published scholarly manuscripts, an incredible outpouring of scholarship from our dear friend, Professor Ron Avi Astor. He's an elected member of the National Academy of Education and the American Academy of Social Work and Social Welfare. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. They're going to sit here. They're going to present their research to you. The slides will be up here. And I'm going to sit.
We'll do it again then later.
Okay, fine. Take it away, Ron.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for that fantastic introduction. I'm glad that it's being videotaped. I will force my 3 adult children and grandchildren to watch it, so I'll get a little bit of respect. They see me as the guy that walks around in shorts in the house all the time. And they'll be pleasantly surprised. I'll get a little bit more respect. I'm so thrilled that you're all here. I appreciate you taking the time on a Monday afternoon to come and hear this. This has been a very important project for us. At this point, it's not research per se. At this point, it's a mission for the 3 of us. We've devoted day and night for now years together. And I just want to, again, thank you for coming to here. This is our first time that I feel that we're able to actually present our data on campus, and that's very exciting. So thank you for this opportunity. As you see, we're talking about building peaceful, safe, and welcoming schools. And I do want to, I know you introduced them, I'm going to tell you a little bit of stories about them, but you know, I've known Mona now, is it 30 years already, or is it, I don't even want to talk about it.
I'm younger than that.
It's 10 plus many months, let's put it that way. And we actually met when she was a doctoral student, and we worked together. We realized that there was no data in the world on any Muslim or Christian Arab or Druze or any Jewish kids, for that matter, in the world. It never was collected at that time. And that's kind of how we met. We started the studies. And lo and behold, the Israeli Ministry of Education picked it up, and they moved it to all their schools, our methods and our samples and the way we were thinking. And over a period of years, we're now seeing that even with all the violence and even with all the wars and all the horrible things that we see on the news, they've had about a 50 to 75% reduction depending on the violence at school itself, including serious violence. We're not talking about community or war. Those are different things. But the day-to-day violence that kids experience. So it kind of goes against the theory. And what it meant to us is that if you could have a climate within a particular school that actually is good and welcoming and teaching in positive ways, you could actually help kids in those schools deal with the outside world, deal with other kinds of things that are impinging on society and school, even though sometimes, as you know, our world could be quite horrible. So we've known each other for a long time, and are very good friends, and also researchers. Now, Karen, I met in a very unfortunate situation. We met, I had a Kellogg grant, and she had a school, and unfortunately in one of the final dances, there was a suicide bomber that blew up many of her students there, and I was doing crisis intervention at the time, visiting in Israel, and so we kind of got to know that way. But I got to know Karen really well, and she became the most important school flipper that I've ever seen. She takes schools that are in high violence areas, lots of crime, low academics, and is able to turn them around to caring, welcoming, loving places. And over the years, I've learned more from her than almost any other principal or educator I've ever met. And she's taken this now to different systems, and she's trying to ramp it up so we have a model for the entire country and perhaps for the region. So I just want to throw that in there because I really respect. Now, you know, we've talked about the partnership between UCLA and Hebrew U is because we have a huge number of researchers in both places that look at similar things, and the synergy is really good, including students as well. And the Amal Network is our partner in Israel. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time. I will talk about our slide in the Holocaust Museum LA. We have a US version of this where the different researchers and practitioners are speaking to each other and learning from each other. And here the Holocaust Museum LA and the Museum of Tolerance actually see over 100,000 kids every year. and they see, combined between the two, over 10,000 teachers and educators every year. One of the realizations that I had here being a school safety expert is that we never actually looked at issues of bias, believe it or not, or polarization, or hate. It's kind of a separate research literature on its own. It wasn't brought into the school safety literature until very recently. And what we do have is kind of a generic bias, or discrimination, or racism. But as you know, depending on the various group that we're talking about, the thoughts that people might have about that group and why they dislike them or like them are really different. For example, what you might think about immigrants might be very different than what you might think about LGBT, or what you think about trans, or what you think about anti-Semitism or anti-Arab. So we are actually creating an instrument with them, and they're piloting it right now as their intake, with almost any form of bias you can think of. And we think there are going to be different patterns. So the different schools are going to have to implement different things depending on what kinds of beliefs teachers and kids and communities have about these other groups. The goal with that one, you'll see, is to spread it across all of California, to all California schools. And I won't spend a whole lot of time on that today, but I just wanted to raise that so you'll know that's for another lecture, but it's connected to this one here too. And you know, since I've started the issue of bias, we have anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, but there's so many others that I just talked about, forms of bias, that we really want to focus our efforts in the next few years on focusing on how this connects to school safety and community safety, and beyond that, democracy in our country, which is ultimately, you know, worldwide. We're all struggling with that. And there's been actually an increase in shootings too here. That's what's kind of driving the US thing a lot. Ironically, there's been a massive reduction in actual physical violence, similar to other places. We could talk about that another time. But awareness has gone up, and people want more, you know, police, other kinds of things in schools that are not necessarily welcoming or caring to each schools, but they want to make sure their children are alive, which makes sense. So we have issues in the United States that are different from other countries, but also really similar around this issue of bias. You know, I talked a little bit about the Holocaust Museum, but I just wanted to put that up so you're aware that that's there, it's active, and again, we're working with the legislature and governor's office to see if we could spread this further. Now, in the United States, we want to rebuild what we've done in Chile and Israel and Kosovo, Quebec, now Japan, a variety of other countries, where we actually build a data infrastructure so that every school, every class has real-time data on their kids, on their teachers, on their community, not from 3 years ago, not in some JAMA article, but their own kids. And we want to include bias on these, the different forms of bias, so they can actually address each one of those. And you can see, if we're successful, and I think we will be, we'll have an anti-bias toolkit that each school could use. So we're looking at ground-up ideas, but we're also looking at how you could scale them and change them so that it's not one size fits all. Okay, so again, this overall project that has the US part and the Israel part has different components. Again, the toolkit, networks of peace building schools here and in Israel, but also around the world eventually. And we're hoping that hopefully we could eventually launch an international center for safe and welcoming schools that includes many countries and different universities. So we have a place where these things could be talked about. Beyond, underneath both of these, just so you'll see the research part, you know, I don't always like calling it data or surveys. I like calling it student voice, because if you think about it as data, sometimes it kind of is what researchers do, you know. But if you're thinking about a child in California that's checking on a list, yes, I've attempted suicide. Yes, they're telling us this, and it goes to some place in California in the governor's office and nobody looks at it. If it's brought back to the classroom level in an honest way, the school could respond to it. They could actually do something about it. Not from 3 years ago, but from now. And we feel that this kind of will work actually for issues of bias too, because schools and teachers could address that, and even their own biases, by the way, of teachers and community members while it's going. This has been the core of much of our success in other countries, and we think it will work on the issues of bias and polarization. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the partnership with the Amal Network, because we purposely selected networks that are exemplary, not only because Karen is exemplary, but because they have amazing principals. Very brave principals, I have to say. One of our principals was assassinated, actually, in his office at the school. There's a new principal that's taken his place in Arab school. These are some of the bravest people I've met, given the context that we're in the Middle East. Another principal's car was torched. We'll talk a little bit about that more, particularly in the Arab and Muslim community right now. The violence is very high and needs to be addressed. But the Amal network, I'd like to introduce Karen so she could present her own network over here, has been so impressive to us in the models that we're seeing from there, that we're going to be building case studies out of these so that it will spread and go to other schools and maybe even inspire folks in California and other places from the ground up ideas that the community kids have and the principals have. With that being said,
maybe I'll take that from here, please. Okay, so before I describe Amal Education Network, I would like to,
is this the two?
I don't know. You remember that I'm a teacher, so actually I can talk without mic, but I will do it with that. Yeah, thank you. Before I jump to describe Amal, I want to share with you a little bit about myself. Why am I doing what I'm doing for almost more than 40 decades? So my parents immigrated to Israel from Morocco. I grew in a very disadvantaged neighborhood. A lot of my neighbors, especially the kids, became criminals. So what makes the difference? Why am I be able to be now in UCLA? It's because the values of my parents. They always emphasized the importance of education, and they didn't talk a lot about values. They practiced the values. Like, for example, every Friday they give us coin for like pocket money, but immediately they say, put one coin to tzedakah. In this way, we never feel like we are poor because there is something that we can give back to the community. And always they emphasize the importance of achievement. So even though I get to a law school in Hebrew University, I decided to become educators. So I was once vice principal, the second time a principal in a very special school in Tel Aviv. I combined two failure schools, one elementary school, the other high school. So I made a school from kindergarten to 12th grade. Students that they are refugees from Darfur, foreign workers, Jewish, Muslims, Arab, Christian, all together from 48 different countries. So I said this school will be the home for the students. School should build the community and school should build the society. With this approach, I decided that school will emphasize about mapping not just the needs of the students, but also the strength. It's with your help and Professor Rami Ben-Benishti, we're mapping all the students, and by that we create a center of music, sport, etc. And the school was open from the morning until the evening. And we create the holistic model, and we bring with people from the high-tech companies and the academy, whatever, we collaborate with everyone, and then the students and the teachers got role models. I got almost 220 volunteers. In a period of 6 years, one of the phenomena that the HBO follow us, and we own that, not me, it's the students that own the Academy Award, even though I was here. It was because the government wanted to deport the students. And I said, no, no way. Those students will be Israeli and they will get ID Israeli. So we collaborate with the human rights, everybody that wants to help us, and we make a paper to the government and we make a policy, and then instead of the deportation, they stay in Israel and they get the ID. At this point, I said to myself, and the school turned around with great pedagogic achievement from 28 to 87 matriculation. we double the number of the students, and that's the holistic model. At this point, with one hand the Oscar, the Academy Award, the other hand the national award that we get from the Shimon Peres, the president, it was a very comfortable place. But I said, I came for this world not to be in a comfortable zone. I should move. And then I got the Bronfman Prize, and it gave me the courage to make the NGO and scale the model, the holistic model, and we turned around 40 different schools in Israel. 3 years ago, now I can sorry that it was so long, 3 years ago, I decided to become the CEO of Amal Network. Why? Because it was after the COVID, something very bad, it's top secret, happened in the Israeli society with democracy. Nothing is obvious as it used to be in the past. And then I said, I should give me a chance to make more impact by going to Amal that established in 1928, before Israel established, and put together all those schools from the Israeli periphery, Arab school, Druze, Bedouin, Jewish school, and have those great principles that I don't call them principle, I call them social leaders, and I call them initiative, before they are very courage to do what they are doing and to give them the support to do. And then I decided that Amal will base in democratic values, but not just talk about them, practice them, and technology. What's happened now, we see the young generation, they don't trust nobody. They don't trust the government, they don't trust the police, they don't trust the adults, they don't trust enough the teachers, because something is shake in our society, but unfortunately all over the world, the question of democracy and so on. And then we decided what we should do to change that picture, how we rebuild trust, how we rebuild our society, because there is an occasion to make the difference, not just to criticize, but to be active of changing things. So, no? Yeah. So what we decided that we will focus of dialogue and STEM, because those areas, students are very interested. They are not interested to come to school if it's a regular study. But if we approach them, initiative things, music, art, robotics, and things like this, they are more curious. So we go to this place and we say, it's not enough that each school will focus on those subjects alone. But if I have a Jewish school, and my neighbor from the network is an Arab school, let's take one teacher that will be the same teacher in the Arab school, and also in the Jewish school. And then the students will do from the both schools project until they will arrive and to the competition in Israel and abroad. And then the curriculum, we go deep by the curriculum in each discipline, and we make those projects by the interesting of the teachers and the students. And nothing cannot happen without the leaders of the principle. They give the attention, they give the energy and their support. And then what we figure out that when the students come at home and share what's happening between during the day, so in one hand the politician talks and they hate, but in the other hand when the students come and say, no, I collaborate and we are together and it doesn't matter what my religion is, we see that we get less and less hate and more collaboration between students. Another example is the October 7 shocked us and put us a mirror to ask ourselves who we are. Who we are like human beings, who we are like Palestinian, Druze, Bedouin, Jewish. We go to our identity. To go to our identity, it's a question of courage to deal with that, because normally the teacher prefer to focus in their curriculum. It's easier than asking ourselves what is going on. But then we build a communities of teachers with, again, with the Hebrew University Accord, etc. And what we emphasize is give them to the teacher the skills and the voice to speak about complicated issues. And don't be afraid to touch and say, okay, it's political. You will go more deep to the example. So in the middle of the war, just to share with you something that I did, everybody wanted to stay at his home, like in the COVID. We were afraid to be on the street because we didn't know what will happen. So I asked myself, I cannot collaborate and encourage my principal if I stay at home. So I tried village by village, school by school, meeting, giving hug to the principal, to the teachers, to the students, and we said, we are not giving up the hope of coexistence. But we cannot talk about coexistence without meeting each other. And when I did that, even though my husband, my daughter say, Mommy, please don't go there, it's dangerous, I say, I must be there. And even though still now they remember those meetings, because it's not about talking about values, it's about practice them and being there with them. The teachers need, as I said before, training. It's not something that it's normal to do, but we train the teachers, every community, going there with professionals, and it's become something that they get more confidence to talk about issues. I'm not naive. We know that diversity, it's a very nice word, but it's become so complicated because unfortunately it's easier to hate people than to collaborate with people. So to be a schools that they are together, Arab and Jewish, day by day, it's complicated, I cannot ignore it, but we're not giving up. We are struggling all together. And the way that we build the group of the principals normally, and that's, I will finish with that, principals normally are very lonely. And everybody wants something from them. The Ministry of Education, the superintendent, the mayor, even me, yeah? I'm asking, demand. But then, when we build them, like now you are sitting together, we built a lot of meeting with the principals, long day, like a journey for go deeply to the field, hearing their voice. That's democracy, hearing the voice of the parents, hearing the voice of each student, and then collect what they are saying to us. So all the project, it's from the bottom up to top down. From us, for the principal, it's not just that we have different laboratory and different things that happen in each schools. We want to scale those practice, the knowledge that has in the different schools. The collaboration between UCLA and Tel Aviv and Hebrew.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm just living in Tel Aviv.
At least you didn't say USC.
No.
Somebody else did.
UCLA, Hebrew University.
Wow.
It's like everybody, okay, the principal goes like this and say, wow, there is something that we are doing that it's, that those that came from UCLA and Hebrew University looking for us, it gives them the courage, it gives them to be proud of their works, and they want to do better and better and better. So we are waiting to this opportunity that the delegation will come here, and then they will have the opportunity go deeply and deeply to the project. So that's kind of, we are working very hard, but it's okay because it's the horizon of our future. That's what I always say, nobody goes nowhere. We will all stay, okay, in Israel, and we must figure out the way to live together.
Dr. Karen, it's very hard to speak.
Yeah, with my broken English.
I will speak from here, maybe it's easier. So, yes, you can. You heard from Karen and Ron, and I have to start with a story. Ron, as he said, I know him for like so long time, and when he came to Israel, to me, and he said, Mona, I have an amazing project. I have been visiting amazing schools, and as you all know, I live in Israel. I live in the Arab society. I'm very active in efforts to reduce violence in the Arab society, and he came to me. And honestly, I can say it as you said, we are like family here. So I can say, I said, maybe these school principals are like doing a game, like to show him that they are very good, and because he's an American, he doesn't understand what's going on. He is visiting
She
them.
actually told me that.
And I didn't believe most of the things he shared with me until I visited the schools. And then I saw that all the theory that just Karen shared, it happens in reality. And I will tell you a few stories that I really had to go, and that I have a very busy schedule in Israel as a vice president. And imagine during the war and after the war, and some of you were in Israel with delegations, and you know what happens in universities. But I had to go to these schools in order to see and also to check whether they are lying to Ron or not. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with what's going on in the Israeli society. And I prefer to say Israeli society and not the Arab society, although the violence is happening in the Arab community. The level of murder in the Arab community during the last 3 years, and you can imagine what happened in the last 3 years before October 7th, is so high. The number of people who were killed since January 1st are 50 people. It's much higher than in the Jewish community, and those who are trying to say it's a cultural thing, it's much higher than in Jordan, than the Palestinian Authority, than in any other country in the Middle East. So, as I said in one of the last interviews, if it's culture, we are 2 million, so we're supposed to be all violent and killing each other, but we still, many of us are very educated, and as you can see, and maybe I'm sure you know, that the majority of the Arab society is not violence, but there is a new phenomena of organized crime that is all over. And in the last month, there was a demonstration led by Jewish and Arab organizations, and many of the students in Amal, teachers, principals, and from the leadership in the network was also were in this demonstration protesting the violence in the Arab society and calling the government and the police to take serious actions and to be efficient in dealing with the violence in the Arab society. And if you can imagine how these children live while you have a murder almost every day in the Arab society, at least one person is killed. 50 actually before today and yesterday. 2 people were killed from yesterday. So the situation is terrible, and then you have to see these kids going to school every day, living in this violence. Last week, a woman who was hanging, how you say, kvisa, the laundry. Okay, she was killed by mistake. So another thing, and it's based on our holistic approach, is in order to deal with violence, we have to understand what's going on also with the preschool children. And we collected data because we know that there is also the mixed cities in Israel where Jewish and Arab live together. There is also a big phenomenon, especially in the mixed cities in the central part of Israel, like Lod, Ramle. I'm not sure if you are familiar with these cities, that the level of violence in the Arab community is so high. And you can see two neighborhoods that they are close to each other. One is very violent, which you can imagine what is it, and the other one there is nothing almost there. And we wanted to understand the experience of the kindergarten teachers who meet every day these kids. And we are in the process of analyzing the data. But before that, we had two main, I believe, before analyzing and seeing the data, these two things that we saw during the data collection are more important than anything else that we will find later. First, the difficulty to convince kindergarten teachers to participate in the study. They were scared and afraid to be interviewed. Even though it's anonymous, they didn't agree. And we hardly were able to reach 20 teachers, no, maybe 17 out of maybe 90 that we approached. They didn't want to participate. The other thing is the interviewers. They felt so bad. After the data collection, we held a focus group for the interviewers because they felt so bad of the stories they heard that the teachers are experiences that children 3 to 5 years old come to the kindergarten and tell the teachers about the shooting in their neighborhood the last night. So we held this focus group in order to give them a space to talk about their experience and what they heard. And now I want to share with you I will share some and Ron will share others, few of the case studies that we have in this work with the Amal network. And the first one is, actually when I heard it's a democratic network that is talking about democracy, as usual, I'm telling you, I'm so suspicious about the education system in Israel, so until I see with my eyes and hear, I don't believe anything. And I came to the school in Beersheba, and this is a Jewish school, but with a large number of Arab children, Bedouin children, Christian and Muslim children who are coming to this school because their parents work in the hospital. So the diversity is not only between the Jews and Arabs, it's also within the Arab students because they have the Bedouin, and then you have the children of the more educated parents that work in the hospital in Beersheba, and then you have the Jewish children that they have also secular and religious children. And one of the stories that the principal shared, she said, yeah, I have some challenges in the school. For example, lately students, they have a school costume, they have to come with a uniform. So she said the Jewish student came to me and they say, how come the Arab girls who have the jilbab, the dress, and they don't wear the uniform because they should put the shirt on their dress. And she told them, but it doesn't look nice, it's to put a shirt. And then they said no. And what she did, actually, she brought them together, they discussed the issue, and also she offered the solution for all the students. And some of the girls, the Bedouin girls, agreed to put the uniform, and others didn't agree, and she accepted that. And then I said, this is the way how you can teach democracy, not to tell the students in civic book, yeah, democracy is ask students and vote and that. No, she taught them in real life democracy. And I was amazed, wow, she's doing something that, without even thinking about it. And I convinced that Ron is okay, they didn't like her. And then I went to Arab school in Tira, and I met with the principal. and it was like a few months ago. And one of the main things, this school decided to focus on identity. And as you can tell from the stories that I'm telling you, each school has different project. It doesn't matter the specific project they choose. The important thing is the way they implement the project, who they involve, and how they do it. So in this school, the identity, ethnic national identity, is very important to the principal. And as Karen mentioned, Karen and her deputy came to the school and told the principal after the war, we are here. And I feel now also touched about what he said. He said, I have to admit, I was surprised. I didn't think a Jewish person will come to me after the war and say, I'm here for you. And he said, like they came to us and offered us a workshop on our identity. He thought, okay, as me, suspicious. Something is going on, especially after the war. You can talk about what you think. And a vice principal, she was in the room and she participated in this workshop. She said, I wasn't sure I wanted to go, but they offered that, and I trust Karen and Tamar, her deputy, and I participated. And she said it was held by a court center that is part of our university, the Hebrew University, and she said this is the first time in her life, a school principal, that she was like almost 55, okay? That she was able to talk about her ethnic national identity as a minority in Israel openly without being scared of anything. So I felt like this is something that we should continue. And what we want to do in this project, for example, to offer this opportunity not only to these teachers who agreed to participate, because as I told you, many of them didn't want to go. And now everyone wants to go because they see that other teachers were able to talk and nothing happened to them. They were not suspended from the school as others in different schools in Israel, if you have heard of people saying anything that they think about it. And now we want to expand that to other teachers and also to try to do it to students, but not only. We want also to do a workshop like that for the parents. Because we believe, as this principal and these teachers say, that if you don't have strong ethnic national identity, you can't know the other. You have to know yourself first, and then you will be willing to know the other. And the last one, and then Ron will go, this is the school actually that the principal was killed in the middle of meeting with his teachers in the room. We were there in the same room, and they were like, yeah, he was killed here. And can you imagine that new principal that stepped in this role while knowing that the previous principal was killed during the day, and no one actually was cut for this like murder. No one was punished, okay? And all Tira knows who did that. Even Ron knows. And this school is doing different project. He actually, what he does is trying to bring students working together with other students from Jewish schools on civic. They have a class on civic, and the Arab students go to visit the Jewish students in their school and vice versa. One of the things that I heard in that school, that while the parents send their kids almost every week to the school in Taipei, when they have the final presentation, the parents were scared to come. I don't want to think about these parents that were sending their kids, but they didn't want to go. But at the end they came. At the end they came, and another project that I was totally surprised to hear about it, and that it continued after October 7th, a group of Jewish volunteers, retired volunteers, who come to the school once a week and teach Arab children Hebrew. Because they study Hebrew in school, as myself, but I grew up in a mixed city, so it's a bit different. And these kids study Hebrew like for maybe 10 years, but can't practice Hebrew, can't talk. And then these volunteers come to the school and help them in the conversation and help them. And I was surprised that this project continued and even was expanded after October 7th. More people wanted to volunteer. So if I'm talking about hope, these projects can bring a hope that there are good people in Israel despite, I'm sorry, our government, I cannot say it. And Ron, it's your turn. I wanted to say about my friend, but we are short of time. You can ask me about my friend in that school.
I just want to say that these principles and these schools, what I like about this in terms of the replication of it, they're not liberal. We only think about these kinds of things with very liberal, they're very conservative, many of them, and very religious. So these aren't the kinds of schools that you would expect would want to do these. But one thing they have in common is they're tired of the schools teaching the kids that they should hate each other, or the status quo. And I think many of them, for religious reasons and other reasons, have said, either from the Quran or from the Talmud or from whatever their sources are, this isn't what education should be about. So they've come to that conclusion, and yes, there were horrible things happening in Gaza, terrible things on the West Bank, horrible things on October 7th, but the focus is, what can we do in education to open a window and a light to reality, to maybe create another reality. Now, it sounds like a big pie in the sky, but we're talking about 50 schools, 30,000 kids, 100,000 adults. If we could do this little pilot here, maybe it can be scaled there and there. So this is part of the hope. I want you to keep it. Now, these guys are all wearing jackets of this school. I just want to mention, you didn't mention it, in Taibe, Mona's at Hebrew University, and suddenly Tira, which is the berber capital of Israel right now, and Taibe right next to it, the kids are seeing all sorts of things happening, partially from the West Bank and partially here. They have the highest number of students at Hebrew University.
This is the question I want her to ask me.
Oh, sorry. Entering the pharmacy school. So Mona walks into the Hebrew University class, and more than half of the class is from Tira and Taibe. So I just want to say these are not just emotional issues that are going on. What's driving the change here is that principals have put a high premium on the academics and on the STEM. So they're building satellites together. They're learning how to build satellites, and they sent them up. They're flying around right now with Jewish and Arab kids, so they learn that. They're learning physics and chemistry and winning international competitions together. So I just want to really stress that it's not just an emotional reducing hate issue. They're doing it through academics, and the academics are really high in terms of the matriculations in some of these schools where you would not expect them to be. So again, they're now sending kids in many of these schools to international competitions, like this is the World UN that they're working together. You can see the different countries there. I'll go in case study 4. We have not talked about the Druze population quite yet. Most people do not know what Druze are. They are a secretive religion, so that's probably a good, reason why a lot of people don't know. And in fact, if they tell you what the religion is really about, they're supposed to kill you. But I think right now, the Druze population feels that neither the Arab, Muslim, or Christian population, or the Jewish population, secular or religious, modern Orthodox, know who they are. All they know is they fight. They're the few that fight in the military with the IDF, but they have very different traditions and backgrounds. So I spent a lot of time in all of these schools learning from them. And this particular school actually is creating, they want to create a museum, and they actually got the money to do it, partially through the government and through others, to create the first worldwide Druze diaspora museum. And they're trying to create a curriculum with the students so that they can educate the world, basically, what Druze are. By the way, they're all going to be here May 31st to June 7th. If you want to come and meet them all, we're going to do examples of School of Social Work and Education. Hopefully we'll be sponsoring it both. I know it's social work well, and so will Luskin. But they're here to talk about how they've raised academic subjects in their schools in order to educate other people. And I have to say, I've never eaten so much food in my entire life. I walked into the room, the entire place was filled with people that the families cooked themselves, which was amazing. I forgot to tell them I was a vegetarian in one of the places. I did not eat the meat, but I ate all the other food. And it was very warm, very welcoming, and they were very happy that other groups actually came to them. So I just want to show you, they have so many different projects over here. There in terms of, here the same groups have debate teams as well as in terms of national competitions. And this is the other Jewish school that I wanted to talk about, that they actually are creating a van that is going to go from place to place with students and teachers and do kind of ask us about our culture and background and create intentional relationships with different schools. All these projects, by the way, have already started. They've already been done. We're just expanding them right now. We're going to look for more funding for more. The reason why we went for these case studies is because in our prior studies, if we actually found really good case studies, other principals and communities wanted to learn from other principals. They don't want to learn from professors. They want to learn from other principals what's worked from the ground up. And those spread like wildfire if the teachers and principals get inspired by them. So we're starting first with these really model case studies and inspiring principles from each of these schools. The sixth one is Achvat Gilboa. These principles, I have to say, we're going after October 7th. All this stuff is happening in Gaza and in Israel and rockets in Iran and Hezbollah. The whole stuff, all the war was so depressing to me. I literally got on antidepressants during that period of time. But my therapy was going to these schools. And people said, how could you spend time in these really dangerous, off the Lebanese border, near the Syrian border, right near Gaza, all these other places, whatever. And the thing that was hard to explain is when you walked into these schools, I don't know, for those of you who are walking into schools and you walk in, you just feel it. There's kind of a buzz. The kids are interacting. The teachers are really in tune with what the kids are going, and they're talking about difficult subjects around the academics. I've never seen anything like that in the United States. It's usually a talk therapy kind of psychological thing that's going on. Research doesn't support that so much in terms of long term. But this was working. I just wanted to stay there all day. I didn't want to leave. And when I left, I was sad, actually. I spent many months there over the last 3 years in each of the schools, with each of the community principals. And any of you who go in there would not want to leave. That's how inspiring they are. So I didn't get into this. The principal here, Abed, who's the sweetest person you've ever met, I have to tell you about this story here. I walk in, aside from doing the joint technology robotics thing with Amal Education Network, school that we'll talk about in a second, I go in and there's buses of grandmothers coming off the buses. And again, they're asking the kids in the community, what do you think works? The kids said, don't talk to our parents. The parents are going to argue, or their politics, whatever. Our grandmothers are cool. You should get our grandmothers. And there's 5 Arab villages around there. They said we can't just do Jew and Arab. We have to talk about within our own group as well, too. They have been warring with each other for hundreds of years over different clan issues. They haven't really met or been with each other. So they said if you get our grandmothers in, they'll get along. They're smarter, they're wiser. So they actually set up booths, food, crafts, clothing, history, technology, and they're there every Wednesday, and they come into the classes. Kids are doing documentaries right now on their grandmas and different other people's grandmas. Some of the Jewish kids are joining in on these documentaries that they're actually doing. And this year, they're actually going to get buses with the grandmas taking the tours to the different villages to teach about their different traditions, backgrounds, history, culture. They're going to do this with some of the Jewish schools too. They were talking about it in the other one too, because it's a great idea. And you just walk around smiling when you see that kind of thing, because and they've worked it into the social studies curriculum, which is amazing, because they're reading and writing, so it's great. The last thing that this school is doing is really doing hardcore science, physics, competing in the international chemistry, physics, and biology competitions in Europe and across the place with joint groups as well. Not only from Jewish and Arab, but for particularly within the Arab community, Christian, Muslim, and we're trying to get Druze and some of the Muslim Arab schools together, but that's a harder task. We'll have to work on that long term. There's a long history there that's difficult. And then the last one is Amal Education Network. It used to be a kibbutz school, but this is one of those schools that has a very large proportion of Christian Arab, Muslim Arab, ultra-Orthodox Jewish kids, secular Jewish kids, kibbutz kids,
and military kids, all in the same school. I mean, I walked in and said, this is not gonna work, all in the same place. But again, you walk in, the first day that I walked in, all the teachers were sitting. I couldn't believe this. You had 1,500 kids walking around, the teachers are sitting, and they just decided kids could ask anything they want of the teachers of their private life. Teachers could ask anything of the kids of their private life. They don't have to answer. But for an hour and a half, they were just walking around, and the buzz was so amazing that went in there. And then, of course, they went right into their documentary film class that they're creating in terms of they're going to do with Jewish and Arab school, where they're actually learning how to do filmmaking and telling the story of themselves, but also with the other about themselves. And they're all in the same region. They have water projects, they have 3D printer projects that they're working on together in terms of robotics. And what's amazing about this school is the principals actually love each other. So they're with each other all the time. They go to each other's houses, and they didn't beforehand. So I think that filters down to the teachers, to the kids, to the community. And now the different communities want to go to the Arab villages for the first time. The Arab villages are going first to the other ones. And it's been a process of a few years. We'd like to expand that. Again, when you walk in, again, Mona telling me that they're pulling the wool over my eyes over and over and over again. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm saying. They fooled you, you silly North Hollywood-born American that's walking into. But you feel it because the kids, it's not an organized dog and pony show. The kids are walking around actually doing robotics, and they're fighting and arguing, and no, I should go this way, and they're going, we got it to work. And they're laughing and they're hugging each other. So you see the nonverbals, and they're learning. Their test scores are off the charts on some of these schools that we're seeing over here. And you walk in and you see there are not a lot of teachers sitting around instructing them, but they're really engaged in working together on the work. So again, this is why we chose these case studies. When they come out in May, we hope they're going to present them. We will then also try and present them in the Amal Network, and then through Israel more widely. How are we doing timing-wise? And then in the United States, we're going to follow the same process, by the way, on this. So again, here's like what I talked about. You walk in on a hackathon, and you see kids from all sorts of different things actually loving to do a hackathon. They couldn't be happier. This is a competition where they're all working, and they're working as Jewish and Arab and ultra-Orthodox and secular, whatever, together. This does not solve all of the political issues that are going on in the Middle East. You all know that. But we can't spend all our time on that. We need to have some people working on creating a window of light. It doesn't mean that we don't deal with those other things. But what I love about these schools is that the light is being opened a little bit, and you could see some hope, perhaps, so that the hatred could be reduced. There's many things that have to be done beyond that. We're going to do a little talking and open up for questions afterwards. But I do want to thank the Gilbert Foundation. We have an anonymous donor that matched the Gilbert Foundation to allow this pilot project. We'd like to actually, hopefully, again, as I said, push this to be a larger center for both California and Israel and perhaps the world afterwards. We want to thank the Rose and James Meltzer Foundation. We have Gary Jacobs, the trustee, here. Thank you very much for that as well, too. Rose was an MSW from the social work Luskin School, and they wanted the money to come back to UCLA and to Luskin School, and Gary felt strongly that it should come to these kinds of peace projects. So thank you so much, everybody who did that. And with that, I think we're going to move to discussion. I don't know if there's any burning questions, or do you want to just...
No, thank you very much. So I promised you an interesting program. Did you get one?
Yeah.
Incredibly inspiring, incredibly wonderful. Congratulations to our three speakers for your work. They're going to come up here, I guess now, and Maura's going to moderate the Q&A. I have to go teach, as I said before, but before I go, you're all distinguished guests, but I want to acknowledge two people who are here with us today. First, the Associate of the Chancellor, Dr. Felicia Nall, is here. Dr. Nall has been so supportive of the Nazarian Center. Distinguished Professor of Medicine in the David Geffen School of Medicine. Thank you, Dr. Nall, for being with us today and for your support for the Nazarian Center. And I'd like to introduce Ambassador Ronen Hoffman in the back. and Israeli ambassador to Canada, who will be speaking, delivering our annual Harry C. Sigmund Distinguished Lecture this Wednesday in the Fowler Museum in the Leonard Auditorium
There's flyers on the
at 6
table
p.m.
outside.
You're all invited to hear Ambassador Hoffman's remarks this Wednesday. With that, forgive me, I have to go to my students. Maura, I'll hand to you. Thank you.
I have just a few questions of my own, and then we want to open it up. I'm sure there are many questions from the audience. So I want to understand a little bit better from, maybe mostly from you, Ron and Mona, about what the role of UCLA and the role of the Hebrew University. Is it primarily the research, the academic research that you are doing based on these projects in the schools? Just so if you could talk a little bit more about that.
So maybe I'll start and then Ron, you can mention that. And saying that very modestly and honestly, like before Ron came to me, my table was full, like with so many things. As a vice president, I actually have my own research about microaggression and delinquency within also Arab Orthodox Jews and others, and I study cyberbullying with my colleague in Canada. But this project is totally different project. I don't look at it as a research. I don't think as a regular research that wants to publish and doing our research in order to, I look at it as an opportunity to make a change, and I see it as a continuous part of my role at the university as a vice president for diversity, because when I heard what these schools do, I thought, wow, this joint project between Jewish and Arab kids, we try to do them at the university based on research that we know that the best way is to bring students to talk about tasks and about joint project, and then you might change attitudes. And then I noticed that Amal Network is doing that, like, how you say it, without, even in Hebrew I don't have,
in a
natural way, yeah. Without, yeah, exactly. And then I said, okay, this is the opportunity to be part of an important thing that might do a change, also in the Jewish society, also between Jews and Arabs, but also in the Arab schools for Arab children who are suffering every day of violence. And if we can learn from these schools, we can replicate their experience to other Arab schools, and we can see, or we can show people in my society saying there is nothing to do. No, as a principals, you can do. We can change the government. Hopefully, yes. We can't convince the police to do their job, but we can invest in our children, and this is what Amal Network does. So I'm grateful that I'm part of that project.
Thank you.
And thank you both for including me.
I'll stand up. For those who know me, I have two students here, so they've doctoral students, Sawyer and Vanessa. So they've heard this before, but I actually have a great imposter syndrome still. I entered academia swearing when I finished my doctorate I will never step foot into another university again. It wasn't meaningful, they weren't doing any work on the ground. I had a clinical psychology degree with schools on the side, also focused. But I realized the power of data and research in terms of how it could change. But I didn't like the way the university was doing it because it was all top down. And for what I learned as a social worker, you have to not just listen to the community, you have to learn from the community. So for me, I'm actually going with the mentality, I don't know things. I know some things, but I don't know a lot of things. I'm learning way more from Karen and from these principals, so I'm really sitting and listening and learning what the kids, and they've got great ideas. Not all of them, but many of them are good. And we have to learn from them in academia. And we've done that before on our scaled projects where we have this top-down structure that could capture the ideas, bring them back to the community, and then using qualitative approaches, build case studies, videos,
and have them spread. We've done this, I could give you many examples in different countries that we've done it. It's a much more organic process because you're not trying to get every school to do the exact same thing. We know that fails. The other thing that it does is the university brings in the whole idea of infrastructure and opportunities and injustice that are sometimes a little bit in the background when schools, like you're saying, some teachers are afraid to talk about these issues. I do not need to talk about California or the United States right now. You know we have these same issues, right? In terms of polarization, fear what politicians might say. Our partners, LACO, they're a little bit afraid of the simple survey of the voices of the kids because of what might happen to them. So that fear is here too. So I see us really as partners to help move society along using our knowledge and data. But also, I'm a theoretician, we have a lot of theory books too. Our theories, some of them suck. They're awful. And so we've written criticizing even our own theories afterwards. Our first book we wrote, we were wrong on, let's say, about half of the stuff that we were talking about when we started looking at the data. So we rewrote it again. I'm gonna have to write another one soon because there's more stuff I've learned from the community. And I think that makes us better. That makes our research better, makes our thinking better. And in the end, the thing that I'm looking for is it making the lives of children, teachers, communities better? Are they suffering less? Are they feeling more belonging? Are they able to participate in democracy? So I see that as a super vital role that the university can play in partnership. They are going to influence us, and hopefully we'll be able to provide support for them to spread it.
To measure those things.
Measure and spread.
Measure and
Scale.
spread. Okay,
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
thank you. Let's see, I don't want to take too much time. There were a couple things that I was really curious about. One is about language differences between the kids and the teachers and the principals. I know that in many of the Arab schools, the kids and probably the teachers and principals don't speak fluent Hebrew. And so what is the common language, or how do you get people together with the language barriers? And then I was really curious in some of the slides that you said that some of the schools have Arab students from the West Bank. And I didn't know that students from the West Bank would be coming to these schools within the Green Line, within Israel proper. Or they moved now. Oh, the families moved. So there were students who were from the West Bank but were able to move into Israel proper.
But at least
we have also schools in the West Bank.
There you go.
That are part of the Amal Network?
Part of the Amal Network. They are not, unfortunately, yet a part of this project, but we hope that we will have opportunity to scale the project also to those schools.
But just so you know, there's fluidity with our principals and teachers. Several of our principals are actually getting their doctorates on the West Bank. And same with, so people are going back and forth. The marriage between the different groups and the families are really, really close on the West Bank, particularly with Taiba and Tira. And they're struggling with that because you have all this, you have all the political stuff that's happening with the settlers and with West Bank and autonomy and everything that's happening right now that you're reading in the news. The schools are dealing with that. It's more fluid than you think.
Yes, thank you. And maybe
Regarding to the question of the language, the principal and the teachers are really fluent in Hebrew. The problem is with the young generation that they prefer to speak English because of the social media and YouTube, etc. So they start to communicate by English. They know Hebrew, but they don't have confidence to speak Hebrew. My dream is that each student, Jewish students, will be able to speak Arabic fluently, and the Arab students will be able to speak Hebrew fluently, because the language is the bridge for collaborate together. But unfortunately, the Ministry of Education's attention is not about this issue, okay? But I'm doing whatever I think it's good to do, but that's the key.
Okay, thank you.
I have something on the
Then
language.
let's go to questions.
In one of the schools, I have to tell you, I walked in and asked about it, so he said, oh, let me call these girls in. So they came in together, and there was a group, this was in Taiba actually, and there was a group of
mostly Muslim girls. There were some Christian girls as well there too. And they were so excited to tell me about this club that they created through Hebrew Club, that they made friends with local Jewish girls their age, and part of what they did was going to the malls together, shopping together, and learning, and they would only speak in Hebrew, only speak in Arabic, and they actually were learning that way. They said, oh, we just love it, and the group grew and grew and grew, and then so finally the principal crystallized that, so they're actually, I guess, going to the malls in Tel Aviv and shopping is part of the curriculum now. So anyways, but I would never have thinking of that, but it works, right? So.
Well, let's go to questions, so that there's some time from the audience. Yes, sir.
You brought the concept of English and social media. What role does social media play? And I'm thinking in particular of Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation.
Oh,
It's a great question. We know that we struggle now with the revolution of AI. What is true, what is false? How we, all the method and the curriculum should change by understanding the challenge that we have here. So we must consider, and what in Amal we do, the students go very fast to the AI, yeah? But the teacher, we figure out that they are behind. And so what we do, it's mapping all the teachers, all the knowledge, and then we create courses to the teacher that they will be able to take this advantage from the AI and technology, but also to put the mirror to the students what the damage they can bring, and especially now. We will have election in, we don't know, who knows, maybe Trump and Bibi knows, but we don't know, but probably it will be in November, yeah? That's the last, because then it's 4 years. We should give the skills and the tools to the students to understand what this reality is going on. So we're challenging this, and we cannot ignore because it's here.
yes, sir.
Did you say a few more words about the violence, what who the perpetrators are, what the reasons are for so much violence?
In the Arab society.
Yeah, in the Arab society.
So if you are talking about the organized violence, it's as
The ones that, the violence that affects the schools is specific.
yeah, so all the violence affects the schools, and the level of violence in the Arab community is totally affecting at least the psychological and emotional feelings of the students in these schools. They are terrified to the amount that many parents don't let their kids play outside their home. And this woman that I just mentioned, she was killed in her home while having the laundry. So it's not only outside, but many parents don't allow their kids to go around in their villages, in the Arab cities, and of course not in the mixed cities. So the situation is so bad, mainly because of the organized crime. Like myself and Ron, we studied for many years school violence, and our studies resulted in the intervention, in creating an interventions by the Ministry of Education, that the results of these interventions are showing that they are able to decrease the level of violence in schools. But at the same time, you have the violence in the community, and this is something that schools and the Arab community can't handle without the involvement of the government and the police. It's like totally organized crime.
I just want to follow up on that because, I want to follow up on that. All the principals, teachers, and kids talked about that. I would say that's the #1 issue in most of our Arab schools.
The latest survey showed, like they asked the Arab population in Israel, what is the most worrying thing you have? They didn't see rise, they didn't see Gaza, they didn't see the war. They said the violence in the Arab community.
Yeah, so I think what the Amal Network has been doing and the principals have been talking about is that you saw the protest in the presentation, that they're actually
using the schools and educating the kids, so those who want to go are actually saying, where are the police? The person who killed the principal has a store across the street from there. He's there, I saw him. When the new principal came on, he said, I hope you have a better tenure than the prior principal. Nothing ever happened to this person. So I have to say, there's a lot of anger at the police and at the justice system there, or the unjust system in terms of what it's doing in the violence there. And most of the focus in the community is going to seeing, it's a pretty right-wing government that is just letting it go. And the organized crime is taking advantage of it.
Is the organized crime Jewish or Arab?
Arab.
Arab.
The paradox
I think
is,
they're actually cooperating with the Jewish mafia too there, so.
the paradox is we usually thought that the school are not safety. Now the school are safety and the street are not safety. Yeah?
Yes, sir, with the glasses.
Has the program been going on for a sufficient number of years that you have a cohort of students who have graduated from these elementary schools and are now in middle
High
schools
schools.
or high schools?
These are high schools.
And what are they doing there to carry on those skills that they developed in their earlier years through
So
your program?
these are all high schools, just so you'll be aware. They're not elementary schools.
Okay, so have any, has there been any survey of what these students do in life, whether in the army for the Jewish kids, whether in national service if there are Arab students participating in national service, and what are they doing, or how are they behaving, if there are any observations that shows that something is coming up with them into adulthood from these programs that you have.
Just one example, and then I'm sure Karen will say more the information. I'm just telling you from my observations when I was in the school in Hilal, the school that the principal was murdered. One of the projects that they have, graduate of his school who come each Sunday, teach other students physics, math, and they want to support their like friends or younger age children in their city in order to encourage them to go to university. They are all university students, mainly Hebrew University, Karen, and coming to back to their school, teaching other young children in order to prevent them from going into violence and helping them in their matriculation exams in order to be able to have higher achievement and go to the university. So at least this is one of the projects that I saw when I was in the school. And now Amal, Karen has all the data, more than me.
She has a lot of data on that.
In our vision, we said the result is not during the high school, but what happened with the graduate. So in the Jewish population, we have more than 87% of our graduates go directly to the army and serve the 3 years. We figure out that it's not enough. We encourage now the students to do, like my daughters did, 1 year of civil service before going to the army. In the Arab society, what we see that we have a little percent of the students that doing this year of civil service, what we call gap year. We want to encourage them more for giving back to their own community. So that's one of the way that we want them to be mobilized in the society. And we do not have, I must to admit, that's one of, I have so many things that I didn't do yet, but the next challenge is how to collect the data about all the graduates. None in Israel do it. And I think it's very, very important, המעקב אחרי הבוגרים.
To follow those who
follow the
graduate.
graduate and to establish alumni to each schools of graduate that will give back to their own schools and community.
Yeah, but hold it. Now, just so you'll know, most of these schools in the mall are the bottom 20% in terms of socioeconomic. very high violence schools. So the network itself is self-defined as having very difficult environments. As you hear, they're very resilient communities that have built these schools and have lifted people. One of the things that impressed me were their overall matriculation rates. So it's like, I guess the comparable would be like our APs. They never took APs, many of these places, and now the number of students doing 4, 5, 6 APs, getting 4s and 5s in these schools is off the charts. They're getting into England, Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, all sorts of different places there. So it's not all of the graduates, but we see an overall average rate, which means more opportunities are going to be available to them. But we do need to follow the graduates.
And we want to be number one, like UCLA, I see, all over the places with number one.
They're still number one.
Okay.
Two more questions.
For me,
You,
you are
sir,
number
there,
one.
there, yeah.
Hey, my name is Renan Crossley. This reminded me of a documentary film I saw in 2023 called Children of Peace, about the Neve Shalom schools in the, I believe it's called the Loyona mountain region of Israel. Were any of you guys inspired by that film, or did you guys even see that film?
Neve Shalom.
It's called Children of Peace. It's about the Neve Shalom school.
I know Neve Shalom and the Karen for sure. My kids learned in another school that is almost the same as Neve Shalom, called Yad B'Yad, hand in hand. But the network, you should know, maybe we didn't mention that, but most of you know that the education system in Israel is system by ethnic national identity. So these kind of schools, Neve Shalom and Yad B'Yad, they are organized as a mixed schools. You have Jewish and Arab teacher, you have 50% Arab, 50% Jews. In these schools, what is special is that it is Jewish school that have a high proportion of Arab children, which is not the same as, it's not as easy as the Neve Shalom, because parents who send their kids to the Neve Shalom, the Jewish parents especially, are sending their kids for coexistence. And in these schools, for example, in the Beersheba school that I told you that with the girls with the uniform, the parents is a public school in the neighborhood, and then suddenly they have 10% Arab children in the school that they didn't want it maybe, or didn't think that this is the school that they send their kids, and this is much harder for the principal to manage this situation than a mixed school like the one that my kids went, Yad B'Yad. Like we all send our kids, we know that they are going to mixed school. So this is the thought.
And
But it is
sir,
inspiring,
in the
yeah.
back, yes, sir. You have the last question.
No,
This is
two,
a very
maybe
long-
there's two.
No,
Vanessa.
Vanessa, did you?
Vanessa.
Okay.
Oh, and it's-
We have two, we have two.
We have here two
We have two
questions.
questions. Yeah. Want to go, lady first?
You have me two questions.
Okay, I will. So I received your presentation with my social work and community organizing brain. So what I heard, and I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit more towards, is the process of organizing these communities who have come, from not necessarily being able to have these conversations, the many different challenges that you had to overcome in order to be able to articulate these amazing interventions. What was necessary for you to consider? What did you need to take into account in order to frame the space that could hold all of this tension, diversity, in order to articulate such interventions?
Well, I think Karen talked a little bit about it, of creating a framework of belonging, democracy, through the network itself. I mean, those are broad concepts, right? But I think once you get into each community, you have to listen carefully to what they care about and what they want to work on. We don't walk in thinking we're going to be focusing on violence within the Arab community and syndicated crime, but that's what these schools wanted to work on first, in addition to the other things. So I think, and we found that in Chile, we found that in our earlier projects in California, if you allow the community to process, hear the voices of the kids, hear the voices of the teachers, do that data and then focus groups, and then really sit with it and go through the Kubler stages, well that can't be, and they finally get to a working space, each one is going to come with a slightly different place where they want to work. I'll give you an example. In California, we had schools all through San Diego where we had really high numbers, 60-70% of the kids who had said they were thinking of suicide. This is middle and high schools. couldn't get the schools to even look at that. They didn't even want to until they had multiple suicides in their school. But some of them said, we want to work on substitutes, or we want to work on belonging, and we went with that. And I think the idea is over time, if you do that on an ongoing basis, they'll get to all of these things, but in their own way. And I think that really honors the community. I feel bad that it took so many suicides, but we couldn't force them to do that. Same with weapon. I see very similar stuff in our schools here. Listening to what they want to work on first and what they think is important is something that we have to let go of as researchers and say, we don't know exactly with this community. It could be two schools right next to each other and with very different goals, very different objectives. Just to finish that last one too, that last question, it reminds me that the difference between Neve Shalom and this is as if you go to a Texas bunch of schools that are all the parents are pretty much right-wing, religious, and they start doing liberal kinds of things. That's what this is like. It's different than going to a school in mid-San Francisco where it's going to happen, or Berkeley where I got my doctorate, and it's easier there, right? They're inspiring, but this is different because these are conservative religious folk.
Okay, one last question to you,
Yeah,
sir.
I think there was another.
Yeah, first of all, it was a very inspiring set of examples you gave, and I was just wondering to what extent the government or the Ministry of Education supports or doesn't support what you're doing, and would a change in the government augur or some optimism in that there would be more innovative programs such as you're doing?
Yeah. Unfortunately, now, at this moment, the Ministry of Education is not so interested. Okay, it's an understatement. But what we usually do, it's doing, not asking of permission. It's better to ask for forbidden, not for permission.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness, yes. Yeah. And then what will happen, a better day will come, I'm sure. A better day will come. And I think that all together, especially with this collaboration, when we will be able to take those case studies to scale them, nobody will be able to ignore. I have this kind of experience all my life. Everybody told me the government will deport the students. You see, they will not stay in Israel. And I said, no way, they will exist. Then everybody told me, you will not be able to scale the model and the school will not turn around. So they told. I didn't hear. Keep going, keep doing, not alone, with the people. And now we have this collaboration, and everybody almost saying, no, democracy will not exist, will not exist. No way, we are not giving up, but doing, continue to go doing, it will be a better day. We should keep this hope.
Thank you. Ron, do you want the last word about what to do to keep this going?
Thank you very much. I first of all want to thank you to come listen to us. I will sleep way better tonight knowing that this happened here at UCLA on the Instagram. But if you know people that would be interested as well in supporting us in the center or growing this, remember we're thinking all the UCs, other universities, and maybe other countries as well down the line. This is needed. There aren't too many places in the world that have this kind of view and are collecting data and actually shows what works, what doesn't work by doing it, and particularly ground up, top down. So we appreciate any connections, advice, ideas you might have.
If I know somebody in Israel who might be interested in helping you, how do they get in touch? What's the best way to get
I
in
give you my cell number.
I'll give you mine.
Give us his address, we will go visit him.
Before we break, I just want to thank again our co-sponsors for this program. Well, first of all, the Nazarian Center for Israel Studies here was very happy to host this event, and we're really happy that you all came to listen to this very important project. And we want to thank our co-sponsors, the Center for Near East Studies, the UCLA Luskin School of Public Affairs, the Center for Middle East Development, the UCLA School of Education, the Luskin Department of Social Work, and the American Friends of Hebrew University. So again, thank you all for coming. We hope to see you on Wednesday for the talk by Ambassador Ronan Hoffman, and to see you at other programs hosted by the Nazarian.
Thank you very much.